How's it going? This is just a very short video. Well, we'll see how short it goes, to talk about the current meta, so the meta game for what the program layouts are in Solana. So like what my interpretation is of what the best way to lay out your Solana program based on things that I've seen around online. And just to give you the first example of this new meta that I've seen and that I've started adopting myself is Jet Protocols V1 has this. So you got your program, you got your cargo. So instead of in Anchor, it used to be that you just put everything in your lib.rs. You'd have your function, you'd have all the function logic. Sometimes you might split out the account context into a separate file. So you got account context, you got the access controls, put them into other files. But now what we're seeing is that instead of doing that, you'll see here there's this instructions that links to a init market function. And what's happening is there's this folder called instructions, and all of the instructions are now in their own file. Originally, I thought this was like excessive because this just looks like a JavaScript library where there's just like so many files, like a file for every function. But there is quite a good logic to this. So let's see if we can get like a good one. Let's do a deposit account. So what we have here is we've got the account context, and then we've got the handler, although there's absolutely nothing in there. It's literally just initializing accounts. But the idea is that you try to co-locate all the stuff that's happening, right? So you put your account context and your function logic and all of the extra functions that are needed for the account context all in the same place. I personally prefer to also put the access controls in there. I don't know if these guys are using access controls or not. Let's quickly go back and check. No, it doesn't look like them. They must be doing validation somewhere else. Just to give a few other examples of some people that are doing this. So there's the voter stake registry program that was made a few months ago by people at Mango to make it easier to vote in the DAO without having to like post tokens or whatever. So here we've got the lib, we've got the governance, so you got your error file, and then you've got these other kind of folders as well. So I think they use state to represent the program accounts. So you got your voter, which is going to go on the account, zero copy account, and then you got all the functions that are implementations of that struct. And then again, you go back to instructions. Let's see, maybe create voters, got something good in it. Got the account context, got the function logic. That's about it. And then even non-Anchor programs are also doing something quite similar. This is the version 4 of the Serum Dex using the asset agnostic order book built by Bonfida. And they're using a very similar sort of setup. So they do have all these extra things which are required for sort of classic Solana ways of making programs. You got your libRS, you got your processor, you got your entry point. But once you go into your processor, there you've got all your functions. You've got new order, initialize account. Again, this looks a lot more, there's a lot more going on here. It's a lot less clean. But you've got the params that are going to go into the arguments. Got a lot of the details, got the account structure. They've kind of recreated this. They've recreated the Anchor syntax almost with their own, whatever you call it, simple framework. And then you got all the parsing and all this stuff which Anchor normally takes care of for you, loads user count data, and then finally you got the process where you actually have the meat of the function, the logic. So I thought that it might be useful to just I don't know, we'll see how long it takes just to go through it, just to show you how to set it up, because I don't know, if you're not super familiar with Rust or the mod systems, it can maybe, it's not always going to work out immediately. So what do we have? What should we do first? So my preference is to is just to have a couple of extra files for errors. I like to store constants in a separate file. And yeah, I don't know, I haven't really seen as much on access controls in the other things we just looked at, but this is my personal preference. And then when it comes to the folders, you really want to store instructions. So instructions are going to be what I would call all the functions that get called from outside of the program. And then I would call this a folder accounts, but you can't call it accounts because accounts is already used by Anchor. So we call it program accounts, is all the actual big pieces, big chunks of data that get stored in like an Anchor account. You know, it's got the 8-byte discriminator at the start. It's got all your Borscht serialized data inside it. And then finally there's types. So these are just sort of like things that would appear inside of an account, which are usually like custom types. So maybe you've got like a vector of like custom structs, and that custom struct would be a type. And it also needs to implement Anchor serialization, deserialization, all that stuff. Okay, cool. So yeah, next up would be, I'm not used to doing this from a cold start, so it's going to look a little bit awkward maybe, but let's just do like init, just do an init account. And what this would look like would just be, you would just add the Anchor prelude, and I would also add these kind of things. I'm just going to copy and paste it over from an existing project that I have. So you've got use create access controls, you create constants, use create custom errors, and then use all the program accounts because you might have like a custom one. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put in the accounts. So you got derive accounts, pubstruct, what do you call this? Init account. And then I'm just going to put pub authority. Signer. Cool, it's just a placeholder. And then on the init account thing, again, this is my personal thing. I haven't quite seen this. I mean, I'm sure it's common enough, like, but this is just where I would put the access control. And it's it needs self in order to like refer to information that's available on the account struct, the account context. I'll just put OK in there. Cool. And then finally, we just re-implement this this function, init account. Let's just do it this way: init account, ctx context, init account, and we're not going to put any other options in there. And that'll be an OK as well. So in order to make that visible, we need a mod.rs. And in mod.rs, we're going to have to do pub use init account star. And then you'd also need mod init account. I think that's it, yeah. And unfortunately, you'd have to like manually type this out for every one you've got, but it's, you know, you figure out faster ways of doing it using regex and copying pasting files after you've created them and all that. Probably won't create a fake account, probably won't create a fake type. You get the idea. Access controls, what I just do here is I would just put all of the access control functions that get called in these lower down functions. Consts, same deal. Just, you know, what's an example of, I mean, you probably know what a const looks like. Error. Yeah, again, just going to copy over what it looks like for me. That's custom errors for me. And then here, you're going to have to do a lot of the sharing. This is where you have all the mod stuff. So we're going to actually use instructions in this file. So we haven't actually run into a compile error yet, but I feel like this is just the compiler. Oh yeah, but there you go. Rust Analyzer is not even loading, so that's not a big deal. So if we're going to use the instructions, we also want to make sure that everyone else can use stuff. So we're going to mod access control, mod consts, mod error, mod instructions, and then we do like mod types and program accounts or whatever, but you get the idea. And so here, what we would do is we would add, this is where we would add our access control. Again, it's pretty flexible on how you call access controls and stuff, but this is the convention that I tend to follow. Actually, it was not validate args, it's called access control. I call the function on the implementation access control on all the different functions, just so that it's like, there's just no ambiguity, or it's just easy to like copy and paste, I guess, just so you don't forget to add it in. And then instead of having OK here, what we do is we replace this with instructions, and then we just, again, it's a preference or a convention to just call it the same name. Actually, sorry, I don't even need a thing at the end of that, because the OK that's returned from here will give the OK to this function. And then the final thing we have to do is just like update these functions to actually match with the underlying function, just so that it's all clear and that all the right account contexts get sent around. Because otherwise you get a compile error if that didn't match the CTX that it expected. I mean, delete that, because I don't think that it's not going to give me a compile error anyway. And that's pretty much it. I think there's nothing else too interesting about it. Yeah, the crux of it is just you want to put all your instructions into one account, into one file. And in that file, you want to have your account context, your access control, and any other sort of implementations that are required for a init account, such as like, any CPI transfers, like CPIs, or like, SPL token transfers, stuff like that. And then you just have the same function name here that uses that account context, and then you refer to that in lib.rs, access control, instructions. Yeah, it's just the new account. It's just a new program layout meta, and I think it's pretty clean. There's a bit of overhead when like writing all this up, so it'd be nice if there was like an automatic template generator or something made to make it a bit easier. But yeah, it's pretty manageable. Anyway, I hope you found that useful. Thanks for watching.